Hi, and welcome to Empowerment Unleashed Now. I'm Michelle Jones on this journey of stepping into your power with your inner authority and creating a life of deep purpose and fulfillment. And I'm here with my brother.
Hey,
How
Scott
are
Collins.
you?
What's up?
Who are you today?
I'm still Scott
Scott
Collins.
Collins? You
Yes,
still
sir.
howling?
Still am
All right.
today.
Welcome. Good to see you today, bro.
You too,
So
sister.
today we're going to talk with our listeners and our audience about future focused empowerment and manifesting long-term goals. We have an incredible guest with us, Debra Martin, who's going to be on in a few minutes, who is an intuitive healer. She's a near-death experiencer. She's a six-time author, just a fascinating person whose work on golden miracles is pretty transformative and profound. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that we're diving into a kind of powerful topic, right? Future focused empowerment and manifesting long term goals. Many of us, we dream big, right? But by staying committed to long-term goals, it requires more than just like a thinking, right? It demands like a visionary kind of mindset, strategic action, but it also requires some unwavering belief, right? Within ourselves. Um, the real magic happens when you align your daily habits, I think, your energy and your perspective with that ultimate vision, right? So your higher self and your earth self are co-piloting to get you to those goals. What say you, bro?
Yes, I concur. I mean, future focused empowerment. How do we achieve that? Right.
That's what we're going to talk about. How to
Right.
put it.
I mean, I would put my chips in that we achieve that by being in empowerment now. The name of our
Absolutely.
right, and it's a
Absolutely.
cultivated uh, thing that is for the future to be there. If you're cultivating that vibe, as you said, that frequency, then when the future arrives, then you're in that empowerment. So, I mean, if we dissolve that illusion of time, the future is now. Also, it's
Hmm.
happening simultaneously anyway. So,
Hmm.
how do we again? This so how do we be empowered now? I do think as we're in Aquarius and we're talking about all these frequency things.
We're not in Aquarius, we're in Pisces
Okay.
now.
Okay. As we've exited Aquarius, we're taping in Aquarius, but we'll be listening in Pisces. It's about the tone, the emotional tone.
That's what I was just going to
You
say.
cultivate the ability to create and then hold inside.
Sustain it.
So you hold and sustain that tone, and then your future is now. It's just a tone that you're in any experience that comes your way in life.
Well,
And
I
then
think
the Aquarian energy of Pluto now, what that can be is then you can have the ability to start creating harmonious tones on top of that tone. So you're not just hitting a bass now, you're hitting a full chord inside your being on a day-to-day basis of empowerment. And then that's how your future starts opening up. That's when manifestation starts happening, I think.
that the most salient thing in all of this is your emotional guidance system.
Yeah.
I think that you have this experience of these feelings to let you know what it is emotionally where you are.
Mhm.
And as you and I have discussed many times, that the response is where the magic and the change really truly happens, right? In the
Yeah.
response to those feelings.
Right. Because that's what you're doing with the information. The emotion and the feelings is the information. And then what you do with it. That
No, that's what you
fine.
do with it. So
Yeah.
what we're going to really focus on today and drill down with Deborah is how to cultivate that future focused mindset, easy for you to say, and specific techniques for us to actually bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be, right? Um, how do you overcome self-doubt? How do you overcome the setbacks, right? That's what we were just dialoguing about, that it's like in the response. And I also think that talking about like rituals that help us to stay aligned with the highest vision um and vibe of where our long-term goals, like being there now.
Yeah, I feel that the adaptation of rituals is integral to making for future focused empowerment, for making your
Mhm.
future now. You have to have routines. I mean, you don't have to use the word ritual, but definitely a routine or a daily uh, discipline.
I don't
That's
know why
an
I
important thing
use
for me to say, but like a discipline and art with it, a practice.
ritual. I'm going
Yeah,
to
for
tell you
sure.
though, I was very specific in ritual. I
Okay.
chose that word with great intention, said the Gemini rising. And I
Yeah.
did because I feel like we have to hold our future focus as sacred,
Yeah, that's exactly what that road makes me think, sacred, and that's
right?
why I'm glad you chose it. Yeah,
That's why I chose it. Like to
yeah.
me, everything from daily meditation to smudging
Mhm,
to juicing to making sure that we're putting organic, clean food into our bodies. Um,
mhm.
Bathing, that could be a ritual, right?
Aff
I mean, in
affirmations.
Japan, it totally is.
Yeah, affirmations, breath work, adapting a few
Affirmations,
5 or 10 minutes of each of those every day, um, stretching, yoga, I mean, things like that are
for
great
sure.
rituals to keep your vessel in that right spot to emotionally receive the information and then spiritually manifest what you want.
Exactly, exactly. So, bro, this is like the on air real time question. Do you have your fabulous microphone in front of you today?
I think so.
You do?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm always thinking of producer like Noah and how the sound sounds. So, that
How does it sound,
future
Sam?
focused on when Noah gets this, how does it sound? And so thank you. I'm glad that you do because I was like, is Scott's fabulous microphone working today? Yeah, it's like one of those, look at that. There it is, the mic. Hello, friends. Yeah, no, I really think that one of the important things in transformation and empowerment when you're looking at manifestation of long term what you want to accomplish is what is that rhythm, like the actionable steps, like the vibe. What are you bringing to yourself? Is it emanating from the heart? Right? Like to me, that's the emotional barometer is does it make my heart happy? And then also from when we had Christopher Witecki on, that we're aiming for good and gooder, right? With those actionable steps. So we are here today with Debra Martin. She is a world-renowned intuitive healer and a medium. She is a six-time author, as well as I love this part. I'm kind of nerding out about it. She's a lab certified medium through the University of Arizona. And as I understand it, there are not many people that have that kind of credentialing, if you will, behind them. So, Deborah, thank you so much for joining us on Empowerment Unleashed Now. We are humbled and thankful that you're here with us. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, so much gratitude for this, for being here with you guys too. I can feel your energy. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Likewise.
That makes it feel all good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, and that's kind of like this shift. So, some of the things that Scott and I talk about with our listeners, Deborah, is we talk about some of the collective consciousness and what's going on. And one of the things out there now is I think that we actually feel each other's vibe and energy with far greater awareness than we had previously. I know for me that that really seems to be coming like in through not just my third eye, but like vibrationally through my body also, kind of clairkinesthetic. But what we wanted to like talk to you about, because we're just taking like a deep dive into some powerful topics, but we know that you are a powerful healer and intuitive and medium. And if you could tell us all about you.
Okay, there's a lot to share, so I'm excited. I believe that we all have a gift, and my gifts came in different forms, in different ways. And I've had to have 3 NDEs. Now, some people don't have to have near-death experiences to have, this awareness and these gifts, but it was part of my journey, and I call them shifts. And I believe we all have shifts in many different ways, right? You might have a baby, you might get married, you might lose a loved one. They're good and they're also sad. So, my first NDE was in a car accident, and this is when I really wasn't tapped into the spiritual world at all. And so I had the gift when I was little, but I turned it off. Okay. So it was always there. But so this day I was out with some girlfriends, and it was the same night that Princess Diana had her car accident. And I was a single mom of 3 children. And then I was watching this, you know, out for dinner. It was on the screen on the TV, and we're watching it, and it just hit me like, oh my gosh. And I'm sure everybody can remember how they felt that day, right? You feel that energy. You can feel it through the screen. You can feel it in the room. So when it was time to leave, I didn't want to get in the car. And they're like, oh, you're just because of Princess Diana, you're worried. She had kids, she could passed. And I didn't know what a premonition was at that time. And I remember saying, okay, I'll get in. And I got into the car, and it was a sports car, so I was going to be sitting in the back seat. And I can remember driving down the freeway. We're going down in the slow lane, and it was late at night, so wasn't too many cars on the road. And I had this. It was like I heard in my mind and saw in my mind that something tragic was going to happen. And I just said, no, not right now, not right now. And at that very moment, a van came from the fast lane and clipped us. And we took out 40 feet of guardrail. And we stopped with oncoming traffic, and we were stuck in our car. It was just crunched. And he flipped 3 times off the freeway. Okay, so now we're just in panic mode. How do we get out of the car? Are we okay? We're stuck. Other cars are coming towards us. And I had this calmness come over me. And this gentleman appeared out of nowhere to the side of my door. And he opens it effortless. Just so effortless. And he carried each one of us one by one to the embankment. And I can remember looking at him, and he said, "You're going to be okay." And I had this really heavy metal ring that I was wearing, and it was squishing my finger, and it was bleeding. And I was like, "Can you just help me get this off?" And he took it in his mouth, and he bit the ring. I have his teeth prints. I put in one of my books. And he took it off, kissed my forehead, and said, "You're going to be okay. I'll see you again." Well, now all the fire trucks and, the ambulances are all coming from over in this direction. And he walked over in the other direction. So my eyes focused over here. But when I looked to my left, he was gone. And there was nobody there. There was no one that can remember him. There's people that stopped to help. No one saw him. So that kind of left me with like, how did I know this was going to happen? Right? Who was this? Why did it happen? And I started going to like all the afterlife conferences, reading Dr. Gary Schwartz's books. Doreen Virtue was big that back then. Just Wayne Dyer, everything I could get my hands on. So that was starting to open my door to the afterlife. Who was that person? And so I know that it was divine. guidance. It was an angel that came in human form. There's no question about it. I do have the teeth marks for, proof, but I do know that this person did not exist in human form. And so that opened my gift to, okay, there's more out here, and just kind of dabbling in it. Then a few years later, I was in another car accident. This time I was sitting in a left turn bay and I was just waiting to cross the street to get into a neighborhood. At that time, I had no premonition. I'm just sitting there, like, no big deal. And all of a sudden, I'm out of my body, and I'm now looking down from another dimension and seeing my car and another car that is carrying a trailer equipment behind him, and he's going to come and he's going to crush me. But I was hit from this car that pushed me into that lane. So I'm looking like, oh, this ain't good. But I felt a presence behind me, just this big, huge presence. It said, "Are you ready?" And I knew what that meant. And, I was still a single mom of 3 kids. They need me. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, really, really good. I got to stay here. And before I knew it, I was in the back seat of that car. That was a 4-door Honda, crunched. All windows were out. The seatbelt had broke, put me in the back seat, and I remember opening my mouth and it was full glass. And I looked in the driver's side window, and there was a police officer and another man. He's like, ma'am, we're really, really sorry. We're trying to get this man who was in a diabetic seizure off the road. And you are what stopped him. So he was going about 70 to 80 miles an hour when he hit me. And so he asked the other guy, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "No, I should have killed her. But in a split second, somebody took my steering wheel and put me in the other the other lane of traffic." And he's shaking, but when he said those words, it was like a download. I remember seeing that. Oh my gosh, I was somewhere. I heard a voice. Who was that voice? How am I hearing these things from another dimension? Where did I go? And that whole journey was another shift that opened me up to, I can hear spirit. And it started opening that door from when I was a child. And so I started dabbling in it, just seeing if I could work with friends. Am I really hearing spirit? That kind of thing. So then I read The Afterlife Codes by Susie Smith.
Susie Smith.
And she was connected with Dr. Gary Schwartz. And I just felt this need. I have to be tested. I just have to be tested. So I was like, okay, well, how am I going to get a hold of him? So I write an email and say, "Dr. Gary Schwartz, I want to be, tested by you. And I read Susie Smith's book and I see she's so connected with you." So it took about a couple months, and Dr. Julie Beischel reached out to me and she said, "I'd like to come to your house." So she come to my house. We're sitting on the couch and she says, "Well, Deborah, I know you talked about Susie Smith, that you read her book." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, I just want to let you know that Susie Smith used to run the Veritas lab. And when she passed, she said, 'I will send the mediums to you and they will say that they've read my book or they have a message from me.'" And I was like, "What?" So that's how I got into the Windbridge. Now I'm a Windbridge medium, and that's with Dr. Julie Beischel. And so I got quadruple blind tested. There's no way you can debunk it. You can read how that whole research was done on windbridge.org, and it's fascinating. So I knew I had to be tested because I wanted to have science be my backbone. If I'm going to help people, is this real? How well am I doing? That, like, so that it gave me the backbone, right? To say,
Yeah.
this is right. So that I felt ethically right helping people.
I love that. Your work with Golden Miracles, Deborah, is all about transformation, empowerment, aligning with your divine purpose. From the story that you just told us about these near death experiences, if you could share, is that what inspired you to start this work? Like, and what does future easy for you to say? This is like a tongue twister today. Future focused empowerment. What does that mean to you? Like, were you inspired once you were tested and you were like, okay, I can bring this forward?
100%. That's what gave me not only the credentials, but it gave me the power within to say, stand in your power and own it and help people. But it wasn't until my third NDE when I was sick and I was really, really sick. Mayo Clinic couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And there was a moment for months that I was just kept saying, God, just take me. And, I had a little girl in third grade at the time. So it's hard for me to even think that I would say that, but I knew the quality of life that I was dealing with. I was curled up in a ball, just in pain all the time. I couldn't eat. I lost my bowels, like everything. And so I was asking God to take me. Well, one morning, a spiritual surgeon showed up in my room. Now, being a medium, I'm not too scared of that, right? Okay, so what are you here for? And they started working on me, and I can remember them going over to my abdomen, kind of where the pancreas is, and it was so excruciating, the pain that they were doing. And I was like, "Okay, I gotta remove my mind from this, or I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop whatever they're doing." But I knew they had to do it their job, so I had to do my job. My job was to just be and remove my mind from what's happening and let go.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a deep breath and I let go. And when I let go, I came out of my body and I started transcending. And so as I was transcending, I can remember floating up and I just felt weightless. I felt, wow, this feels good. I'm not in any pain. And I came to a dimension that was just surrounded in light. Kind of reminded me like if you're on an airplane, you look up the window and you see the sun on the clouds.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And I'm like, okay, now what? I'm here by myself. Like, what
Oh.
is this about? I can remember these hands coming towards me just like this. And before I knew it, I saw my body being held. So now, if I think back to it, this is my soul watching my body being carried.
Mm.
And I call who was carrying me, I call God. And carried me and I followed him and he laid my body on a beam of light and there was a coffin next to it. Glass coffin, beautiful coffin. I wanted to go into the coffin. I wanted to say, but why is there a coffin here? Is this a point that I have to make a decision, right? So proceed to go into this dome. And I was all questions. Why do we have to go in the dome? Because what you're going to hear right now is just between you and I and not the universe, not anyone in the universe. So I'm like, okay, all right. And I can remember feeling I was sitting at a desk and my lifeline contract is laying in front of me. That's what I was told it was. Many, many pages. But there was only one page that was showing to me. And this page was saying basically that we could reverse this, reverse what's going on. And so I saw health turn into healthy. I saw voice. I thought voice just means mediumship. Yep, I can sign off on that. Prosperity. This all looks great. So he says, well, you need to sign it. And I'm like, but can I see my parents first? Can I see people on this side first? He's like, no, because then you'll never leave. This is a dimension you're in. You're not in a place to see your loved ones. So I signed it. It was 12112. And God said, all numbers are reversible, and so is this. And it's time for you to go back. And I begged to stay longer because I felt so loved. I felt so at peace. I was no longer in pain. I was like, all right. So when I went back, I can remember kind of floating downward but I can remember when I went into my body almost felt like a air mattress, filling it up. And I can remember just going, ah, to take my breath, almost like I had a new breath. There was no longer spiritual surgeons in the room. And I just was like, what just happened? Right. And I'm like, I better write this down. I don't want to forget this. This is something you don't forget. It's ingrained in you, but I did not want to forget this. Right. And everything started to unfold. It took me a while to heal. I had to still, um, I was guided with intuition. Write some of the things, ask yourself questions, love your body. What are you going through? What's it teaching you? All these kind of things. I walked the walk. It took me about 6 months till I was fully healed. Um, and I was learning that I was having the healing ability. What I'm applying to me, I'm going to apply to others. But with doing this, I did not know in my contract that everything that was stable in my life was no longer going to be stable. So the husband that we were totally in love said, I can't walk this walk. And you'll regret me if you don't walk this walk. And I'm like, it's not about regret. I signed this oath. Like this is in me. I have no choice. So life became very, very hard. I lost all stability, all financial stability. And it was like, I questioned, like, why? Why do I have to go so low to do this work? And he was molding me. How strong will you be? How strong will you stand in it? How much do you believe in it? And always had my back. I always had what I needed when I needed it, but it wasn't always easy. And I think that's one of the things, walking through and helping people right now. It's not always easy, right? And healing can be a process and it's not always easy. So with that NDE, I got the gift of healing. And so now I use my mediumship in my healing sessions, but the words that come through are words that I wouldn't know about a person. So I feel that the higher frequency and energy and the voice is coming through me, sharing things only they would know. Like going to root issues of when they were a child that they may have even forgotten about. And then I bring it up and they're like, how did you know that? I go, gotta remember, I'm just the instrument. I'm letting this all come through for you. And then sometimes it has to come out that way. So then they believe it, they own it, they stand in it because I just triggered something in them, right? Um, Many times I don't know anything that they're dealing with. And it's almost easier that way because then I'm not just looking, saying, okay, we have to heal, a knee injury, right? Because it's not just the knee injury is what I tell people.
Right.
It could be so much more. So I'll put that in the prayer. God, they want their the knee healed, but let's not limit it to it. Let's just go to everything and all, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And it's just been remarkable. And I think it continues to grow, right? We learn things as we walk this earth, and it's constantly growing. And there's not a day that when I do a healing, I'm just not in awe. What? It's like watching a movie for the first time and going, wow, that was a good one, right? And then, then you're like, I really like this one. And then you're wondering because these people are remote. So they're not on Zoom or nothing with me. So I'm just going to send the audio to them. Now I'm thinking this person could be in China, they live across the world. And I just told them they're wearing a kidney bag on their left. Better be right. But I have to trust so much that it's not me being right. Right.
Yes.
And then it comes back and you read the emails going, I do have that. And this is happening to me. And you're just like, good job, God, good job. And then you're just full of gratitude. And I think if this all builds on itself, I'm constantly learning. And it hasn't been easy because there was a time in my life where I thought, okay, everything's in alignment now. We're doing great, right? Guess what happened? I got cancer. So how does a healer get cancer? And why do I have to have cancer now? I went through 3 NDEs. I've done all this work. And now you want me to have cancer? But why not me? I learned so much from that. I used to call it the beauty of the beast within me, and I learned that it's my beauty and my beast, and I connected with it, and now I know the blessing out of it. When I help people that have cancer, I walk the walk. I know I can hold their hand. I can understand. You think that you have enough empathy and enough compassion. I did. I had nowhere near enough when it came to understanding. And so, do I look at it as I had to go through that for a lesson? I think everything we go through is a lesson, but it's an opportunity for growth. And so, instead of, oh my gosh, I got cancer, I decided to write the book of all the steps that I did and all the healing prayers and everything I did along the way, saying they could apply it too when they're walking to through any illness. But it was hard thinking, do I do this? Do I not share this? And I'm like, no, this is another thing that made me who I am. And so one of the things I'd like to say for people in the future, when we get diagnosed with a diagnosis, right? That becomes powerful. I remember when they called me and said, "You have cancer." It's like, "Whoop, I lost my power." I couldn't even voice it. I couldn't even say, "I have." No, I'm not talking this. So now it has the power over me, and I got to take my power back. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to own the word cancer. And so that's why I try to tell people with any illness, don't own it. It's just a little part of you, right? But if you let your mind let that control, then that's going to control everything and all outcomes. And, not everything can be healed. Sometimes things are just part of our life that we chose to do, but it can make it easier, right? It can make it easier when we have that faith, when we're walking with an attitude of gratitude, or we're seeing things in a different light, when we tap into our own light and we just breathe and just be. And so I think it's really important that people know that they're powerful. We are powerful beings, and not to ever lose your power, no matter what they say. How many times have we heard a doctor give a diagnosis that you have 3 weeks to live, and then the person lives for 2 more years? They didn't own it, right? They didn't own it. It's like, well, wait a minute. I think I'm in charge of that. And I'm not discarding the doctor for saying that, because that's out of their protocol. They know what they're seeing, and they're trying to give you a guideline to help you. So if you do only have a couple weeks, you know how you want to spend it, things you want to say. But I, walking the walk and through everything I've learned and the people that I've helped, it's just been miraculous. That's all I can say. Everything's just been miraculous.
Amen, my friend, because you and I share something in common. I am a cancer survivor myself. I actually called it the C word. I did not even speak the word
Right.
for my entire recovery. Um, I call it my healing, not my illness, with great intention, because of that future focused empowerment that I held within me, that I believe came from, the relationship that I have with what I would call God and my higher self. And so I love what you really were articulating, which is one of the most integral things about empowerment is, what do you want from something? What do you want to own experientially? Like, what outcomes do you want? And of course, the doctors are trying to help us, right? And they're trying to inform us. At the same time, transformationally, the spiritual and the emotional aspect of it, I'm not sure that you're going to get the pulse on that, no pun intended, from the doc, because it's not their orientation.
It's
Yeah.
not it's one of those things I really had to embrace. Um, some people don't believe, you have to do one way or another. You see the doctors or you don't see the doctors. You do spiritual work or not. And I really connected to my higher self. I connected to God. What do I do? In fact, I woke up that morning being told from spirit I had cancer and I needed to get a hemorrhoid out. And the doctor argued me not to take it out. And I said, no, I have to, because intuitively I knew it was. And
Yes.
so I knew my body right there more than the doctor knows my body. Right. And then I found out it was cancer. So I listened.
Yes.
I trusted my own intuition. We know our body better. But then I used every tool in my toolbox.
Amen.
Everyone's like, you know what? I'm going to use it all.
Yep.
I'm going to use my gift as being powerful, walk with grace, love my body, love the cancer, learn from the cancer, talk to the cancer, and then not use the word cancer. I didn't. And then, on the medicine that I was going to be administered, I had to take like 18 pills a day, plus I had infusions. I prayed on them. I
Yes.
remember going, thank you, God, for this medicine. Going, oh, I really got to be thankful. But the first time taking it, you're not very thankful, right? But this was made for us. It was made for us. The radiation machine was made for us. I use that as my God time. That's when I would get insights and things to write about. And so it's all how your attitude, how you want to embrace it. And you're going to walk through fear. I did. There's that fear element. You have to embrace your emotions. You have to allow those emotions are real. You have to
Yes.
feel, you have to feel to heal, right? You can't just ignore it. But I decided, yes, I'm going to use every tool in the toolbox and walk through it. And that's the outcome. I didn't know what it would be. Wrote the book, and then now I'm 5 years cancer free. So, yeah.
Amen. Thank God. I mean, I think that you kind of just articulated beautifully the principles from your golden miracles framework, which are, how clarity, how belief, and inspired action together creates like the ultimate transformation. Like you worked your martial arts like on yourself. I'm stealing your line, bro. I'm gonna let you jump in now because you're just like,
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
And I think too, everybody has their own.
like,
Yes.
yes.
I think it's really
That's the
important because
mutual part. Yeah.
how many times do people say, like, I gotta do it like James von Prague. I gotta be a medium. Like,
Ah,
I'm gonna read everything, and then I'm gonna go to the next book and I'm gonna read everything, and I'm gonna do all their modalities. And it's okay to apply some, but do it your own way. Make it your
Yes.
way because that's your power. And so,
Yes.
right? So if
Yeah.
you don't feel like you want to use the doctors, trust that. I'm not saying you have to. Do what's right for you. There's no right or wrong way. It's your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like deep bow to both of you for doing that when you were presented with a disease, just like uh being martial artists and completely being your own unique healers to yourself. Self-healer, we're all self-healers, right? That's
right.
that's the ultimate. I'm like one party removed from that. My spouse is a similar cancer survivor, diagnosed in 2012, and in a martial art way also was able to accomplish the same thing you guys did. And I remember pretty vividly the day I found that news out, and it taps onto your fear comment. And the next morning, I just got a download to tell her, don't be afraid to heal. It's okay to heal.
100%. So
Right? Like, because the fear gets projected onto so many things. And
Yes.
then you can almost experience, and I say this now, 13 years later, and of course, you guys probably would agree, it's not something you would ever wish on anybody, right?
Never.
But it can end up being maybe one of the best gurus you've ever had, also at the same time. So there is weirdly opportunity in every experience, right? And that's when like you said, Deborah, our true test of owning our power is before us. It's an opportunity to really move into that, because I believe our power is innate. It's like we possess it by sovereign right. It's not something we have to go learn or acquire. It is already inside us. So we just have to remember. It's just a remembering. It's just a lighting up the pineal gland, the crystalline DNA, whatever it is inside us, lights up and we remember. It's already there. It's not something we have to go accomplish. And that's a bit of a relief. I just feel like reminding us of that um, allows us just to receive our power. It's not that we have to go reach for it. Just receive it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That there's a fascinating thing that you said about fear and it's okay to heal, right?
Mhm.
So I remember helping this woman. I did a YouTube with her. Her name's Beth, and she was taken on a spiritual journey. Now, a spiritual journey is a vision that comes to me, and I share it to them, and they might feel like they're actually out of body going to this space having it, or they're just part of that vision taking it in when they listen to it. So she was taken to this space where God shows her and says, I want you to see yourself in the mirror. And then he showed her her healthy self. And she went, whoa, that's what that looked like. I remember that now. And I think that's what's important is we get stuck in I'm sick. And, I have a family member that can't get unstuck. She almost has the cloud around her all the time. I'm sick, right? But has she ever wondered or remembered or rewind? I say rewind the brain. Let's rewind the brain and go back to what we remember what we were when we were healthy. And so that happens a lot in healings. We rewind. We're not going to forget because this was an opportunity of growth, but we're going to rewind so that you can remember what it felt like. So that the brain now doesn't trigger when we heal. The brain isn't triggering these pains, right? You're resetting that. But then the body can own what the brain is now saying. Let's go back to where we were healthy and whole.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
And
that's
we respond differently to a trigger becomes more
yes.
responsive than a trigger because we feel it as information and then we can respond and that's when we grow. That's when
100%.
we
But
ascend. Yeah.
you gave your wife the greatest gift by saying, let's remove the fear, let's stand in our faith together. Let's walk forward. And that was truly a gift. So
It's
Yeah.
it's it's a beautiful thing when, the limiting beliefs that we hold
Mhm.
can actually be like broken down just through love, right? Just through love. And it's incredible dissolving those mental barriers. And I say this is Gemini rising. As much as I separated myself from this diagnosis, a label, it was still in existence and holding that future focused place of it, for me it was future focused. It wasn't for me personally a rewind um because in my particular healing I actually believe that I'm the healthiest now that I ever was. I believe this had been lurking in me my whole life until it came forward and did what it was supposed to do.
right.
And so for me it was the mental barriers of because, and Deborah, we've been through it, right? I mean, like I had the plan of going to Switzerland and saying, hook me up. I'm done. Like this isn't how I'm
Right.
not gonna live with this pain. And so I'm not going to say to people that there weren't those moments of excruciating,
Correct.
bone pain, frustration. the mountain was too big. Like I can't do this. Like this is like, sorry, but it's like fucking Groundhog Day. Like pardon me.
No, it is. It's intense.
But the intensity of it, I was like, oh my God. And I would say to God, this is my contract?
Right.
Like,
Right.
really? Like,
That's how I was like that too. Like, what now? I have to go through this? Life is good? Why you hit me with this? But I have to say something to people that are listening because not everybody uses the word God, right?
right.
And so for me, I believe God is love. And
Anna.
so if you look at love is all around us, it's within us, and I believe love heals. And so as you love yourself, you love what's going on in your body, you love your body, and you allow that light and love to come through you and help heal you. It kind of all goes together.
Yeah. And only opposite of love is fear. So God is not fear
No, no. Or judgment,
or judgment.
Especially
especially because
especially that one.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the disempowerment comes in, is the judgment, especially the judgment of oneself